Good day, everyone. Welcome to NATSCI12 Natural Science. And now, I will be tackling another lesson which is all about the weathering. Are you familiar how rocks, minerals, salts, and ice glaciers break down and transported into other areas through natural forces like wind and water? Well, I will introduce you now the process of weathering and its effects on geological features, just like the rocks, minerals, and many more. When we say weathering, it is a process of breaking down and dissolving rocks and minerals on Earth's surface. Once the rocks or minerals have been dissolved, another natural phenomenon called an erosion will happen, in which Earth's materials are worked out away and transported by natural forces just like the wind and water. This weathering comprises both disintegration and decomposition, and the causes why weathering happened are the presence of water, acids, the presence of salts, plants, animals, temperature changes, iron oxidation, hydrolysis, weathering, and the people. Weathering is subdivided into physical weathering and chemical weathering. Physical weathering, it is the process of breaking down geological features physically, with the presence of physical things and physical reactions, while chemical weathering, it is the process of breaking down geological features chemically, with the presence of chemicals and chemical reactions. Physical weathering has three main causes, which are the presence of water, the presence of plants and animals, and lastly, the presence of temperature changes. This integration can be called as physical weathering. This means it is a mechanical process of breaking down big masses of rocks into smaller and simpler ones. There is an exertion of pressure on rocks which causes it to widen and loosen its fragments that eventually the rock will break. This process happens when water enters into rock pores and freezes when the temperature drops and gets cold enough. Water expands when freezes, and this applies pressure to the rocks that eventually cracks. As what I have said earlier, that when there is a weathering happen, an erosion comes next. So right after the rock breaks, the ice in the rock melts and carries away the rock fragments into another area. So there is an erosion happen. It is being transported from one place to another. Another causes of weathering is the presence of plants and animals. Both plants and animals causes mechanical weathering. One example of this is when plant roots grow on rocks. Plant roots spread out on rock crevices. Some trees may germinate also in soil that has accumulated in rocks. As plant grows by, its roots deepens the rock fissure that eventually causes the rock to crumble. Even though big rocks can be broken apart by trees over time, animals could also cause weathering like moles and dogs, which breaks rock apart and soil with its digging abilities. The rocks above the ground can be broken down through digging and trampling by other organisms just like what I have mentioned, the moles and dogs and any other creatures. Now, we are on the last causes of physical weathering, which is the change in temperature. The change in temperature also causes weathering that falls under physical weathering or mechanical weathering. This happens under thermal stress where temperature varies over time. The total variation of hotness or coldness of the temperature causes the rocks to expand and contracts, which disintegrates over time. We are on the second process of weathering, which is the decomposition as chemical weathering. So we are done on the physical weathering, and right now we will be tackling the chemical weathering. So in this process happens which form new substances from minerals in rocks. So in short, there will be a presence of chemicals and occurrence of series of chemical reactions. We know that decomposition is a process in which more larger complex substances or materials are broken down into simpler and smaller materials. Chemical weathering has five main causes, which are the presence of acids, the presence of salt, the presence of iron in the process of oxidation, the process of hydrolysis, and last is the presence of weathering and the people. chemical weathering, as what I have said, is the presence of acids. So example of this is the water carbonation. This occurs when carbon dioxide CO2 from the air interacts with the liquid water, H2O. As a result, a weak acid called carbonic acid thus created, and take note that this carbonic acid has the ability to break down rocks. For instance, limestone rocks can be easily dissolved by this carbonic acid. Underground limestone also can be fractured by carbonic acid, which causes fissures to the open up or whole cave system can be excavated or undermined. Next, we have the presence of salt in the process of haloclasty or haloplasty. Haloclasty is a method of rock weathering that uses salt. So this occurs when salt water enters through the rock pores and fissures. As a result, crystals of salt are left behind if salt water evaporates. Growing crystals create pressure on rocks that gradually disintegrating it. While haloplasty is a method of rocks creation caused by the accumulation of salt crystals. These were usually seen and observed in coastal areas, and the expansion of subsurface salt domes, also known as salt upwelling, speeds up the process of weathering if rocks underneath. Next, we have the presence of iron in the process of iron oxidation. Oxidation is the process which causes rocks to rust. This happens when oxygen and iron comes into contact with water, so they combine to form rust. As a result, rock is weakened and broken down as a result of rust expansion. We also have the process of hydrolysis. This is a process when compounds in rock interacts with water, creating a new solution. It is a combination of two substances or more substances. Example of this is salt water solutions are created when sodium minerals and water interacts, as the case in many rocks. Weathering and the people, which is the last cause of chemical weathering. So humans speeds up the process of weathering, like producing air pollution, which quickens weathering. So human activities just like burning coals, natural gases, and burning petroleums are burned releasing nitrogen oxide, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. Acids are produced when these substances reacted with moisture and sunshine. As acid rain produced, they return eventually to the earth. As a result, marble, limestone, and other types of rocks and stones quickly decayed and damaged due to acid rain. On gravestones also, acid rain affects its visibility and readability. Acid rain also harmed buildings and monuments. Literally, other human activities like intentionally breaking down, destructing rocks and stones causes the rocks to deform. All those things are the causes of weathering and their physical and chemical weathering. That would be all, and I hope so that you have learned something, and see you on our next meeting.